Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video got a huge announcement for Bitcoin mining. This is one we've been waiting for. Those of you who got caught wind, we did have dates officially for the WDMS from Bitmain, which is typically where they make big announcements, and the first one is out, right? So we're going to talk about the Antminer S21, right? So the next gen of Bitmain's flagship. We're going to talk about the few things that we do know. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot, but we'll talk about what we do know and kind of compare it to what's coming so we can make kind of predictions and see where we're at, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned, all right? So let's get to it. So kind of was brought to my attention yesterday. Shout out to Seb of Seb's FinTech. He's the one that kind of gave me the heads up. Started kind of trying to dig a little bit, see if I could find anything else. And Bitmain slowly started releasing press releases throughout the day, and then sometime in the middle of the night, this one came out, right? It was at 1:05 this morning, EST, which is kind of a weird time. But here it is. It's the S21. The only kind of insight they gave us is that it's going to be under 20 joules a terahash, right? Signaling the 1x, meaning it's going to be under 20. Kind of weird that they teased that. To me, right off the bat, it was indicating that it was probably going to be like 18, 19, but we'll talk about why it's mostly going to be hopefully a little bit better. Otherwise, it's not going to be as big of an announcement as they think. We'll talk about the competition here in a second. The only other tidbit of news they gave us is the picture of a unit, which is the same as all the other Bitmains, but it's just signaling that it looks like it's going to be an air-cooled unit. Right, when I first was hearing it, I was kind of guesstimating that it was going to be a hydro unit first, most likely, something more for the commercial guys versus residential, and then leading into residential units releasing after the halving, right? Because that's when Bitmain's really going to make their money, because at that point they're going to be able to sell that thing for over 10K most likely, right? But it does seem like at least this initial announcement will be this guy. We'll see what shipping timelines are. I highly doubt it's going to be released at that moment. Most likely releasing, going to do like a big pre-order window similar to like the ones from last year, right? Where they're going to announce it here. Pre-orders will open and probably not shipping till Q1 of next year, right? And then delaying it all the way into the halving. So they can pre-mine on it prior to the halving, right? Again, purely speculative, but that's just my guess. So again, the only things we do know, looks like it's going to be an air-cooled unit and under 20 joules a terahash, right? So those are the few things we do know. Now let's look at some of the gossip or rumor mill that's been going around. There were quite a few posts on Twitter. And these were confirmed, they're rumors, right? Kind of annoying thing, right? Both of these tweets are from people at Luxor. They should have just deleted the tweet, right? So they put out this information, which was from a fake website, which they should have dug a little bit more. But at the end of the day, they did correct it, right? They did put it like an update here, but they should have just deleted the tweet. Or at least specified that this is rumor, right? But just kind of weird that they put it out as fact. Again, the proper move, delete the tweet. I don't understand why they did it. And this is another one, and this one they even put it because they are also in charge of the hash rate index, which is they try to keep track of, you know, prices and such. They also tweeted here, and they also listed that in the comments. They did put the exact hasn't been confirmed other than it's under 20 joules a terahash. They should have just deleted the tweet. Unfortunately, a lot of people saw this and they're running with it, right, as fact, which again, we don't know. It's not confirmed. They should have really been more specific and put rumored or unconfirmed, but this is what we're hearing, yada, yada, yada. But when you see the tweet, it looks as fact and people are running with it. And again, you got to wait until it's confirmed, right? Or unless a more reliable source, we'll talk about the source that they use, then why you got to be careful right now, right? A lot of scams going on. We'll talk about that here in a second. But first, let's compare, right? So the few things we do know, under 20 joules a terahash, and that it's an air-cooled unit, right? So if we look at their latest and greatest currently, which is the S19JXP, which isn't due until Q4 of this year, right? And look at the price per terahash, okay? $33 a terahash. Same with their high-end hydro unit, it's also $33 a terahash. So expect it to at least be in that range, right? If not, maybe a little bit more. Hopefully, if they're smart, it'd be a little bit cheaper, but I highly doubt it, right? Because this guy isn't even out yet, and they do have a lot of models sitting, right? The S19K Pro, which was just announced, is also there. All these other units are in stock. It's kind of crazy that they have so many units out there currently, and yet they're continuing to add. So that to me also speculates that it's going to be a farther out release, right? Like, I don't think it'll be end of year. I think it'll be Q1, possibly like all the way into the halving because of that, right? They want to try to get essentially get rid of these units first, right? Put them on sale, maybe price them a little more aggressively so they can start selling those, unless it's just going to be for sale and like bulk orders, which is probably also likely, right? A lot of these farms, a lot of their big clients probably ordering these in bulk, and then they won't be made available for retail, which is us, until either after the, not necessarily just even after the halving, but until they're worth a lot more, right? We'll see what happens, but that's what it looks like now. Now, as far as speculation as what we think the ratings may be, well, let's compare it, right? We know Bitmain likes to be petty and likes to be number one, even if it's just by a couple of terahash, right? We know currently for air-cooled units, the Desway is the best, right? Just did a video a few weeks ago talking about it. And yet here we are that it's probably going to get dethroned. They haven't released the specs yet, other than it's going to be under. Kind of funny because this one currently, their higher end model is 20.5 joules a terahash, right? So it's kind of funny. The link they gave us is that it's undercutting them. By how much, we don't know yet. But I would expect to also for it to be rated higher than this guy as well, right? They're not going to create all this hype just to be number two to this small manufacturer, right? So it's rated at 170, but it does have that overclock mode to over 200, right? So my personal guess, for them to create real hype about it, they got to go over 200, right? And it has to maintain good efficiency. So we'll see if they do that. Again, that's why my guess is that it'll be anywhere from like 15 to 17 joules a terahash, right? We can do a quick little calculation and throw it out there. We know that typically their big boy units are anywhere from like 3,000 to 3,350 watts. So it'll be somewhere within that range, right? So let's throw out a number. Let's say it's 3,250 and it comes out to 16 joules a terahash. That'll bring it to 203 terahash unit, right? So don't think necessarily it'll be right on here, but I think it's going to be within that ballpark, right? The rumor mill has it again with the rumors these guys were saying was about 15 joules a terahash, and I think it's going to be in line, right? I think it's going to be somewhere between 15 and 17, because again, they want to be at least 10% more than these guys. These guys are at 20.5, and also there is another form of competition from another small manufacturer called Chain Reaction, right? They put out this press release. Let me know in the comments actually if any of you guys saw any coverage on them. They were supposed to make an announcement at Mining Disrupt. The content that I did watch, nobody touched on them or if they were even really there. If any of you guys saw anything about it, but they were supposed to announce this guy, their Electrum unit, which the key thing was that it was going to be 19 joules a terahash at 140, right? So let me know if you guys heard anything, but again, this one is on the timeline. Maybe something got delayed and they didn't show. Otherwise, I'm sure we would have seen something greater or pre-sales or something, but nothing necessarily there. Interesting though, right? So that's why, again, to me, it's got to be at least 17 joules a terahash for it to be somewhat impressive, right? Because even at that point, is it really that big of a gain? Especially considering that a lot of you guys with XPs and have like aftermarket firmware, I've been seeing people getting like 18.5, 19 joules a terahash by underclocking it, right? So again, for them to demand that price point and really have hype, they want to come in somewhat aggressively, right? So for it to be impressive, in my opinion, it's got to be at least somewhere between 15 to 17 joules a terahash, right? If it's coming in at 18, 19, not so much, right? Unless they come in aggressive with the price. And that's kind of where they can undercut a lot of these smaller manufacturers, because that's one thing where they can beat them at is the price, because again, just mass producing them, right? They're going to be able to do that. They're using the same shells that they've been using since forever, right? Bitmain, we think it's the same unit, essentially same parts. So we'll see what happens, right? We're going to find out probably sooner than later. I don't think they're going to wait to debut it there. I think they're going to want to build the hype. So most likely within the next week or two, we should be seeing the specs so they can start building that momentum, right? They want to get people hyped. They want to get people excited. And they want to start getting people over there to that WDMS so they can talk to them in person and negotiate those deals, right? Because if they debut them there and ends up not being so hot, it's not going to look good on them, right? So we'll see how that turns out. So let's compare it to some of the other things going on, right? Again, initially when I heard this, I thought it was going to be a hydro unit. And I was expecting them to go after like the What's miner, right? Because as we've seen, they have some pretty crazy units, right? They have their system that to me is honestly the better system. And it's crazy because they currently even have all the way up to 320 terahash models. So that's kind of what I was kind of guessing, that it was going to be a Hydro unit of some sort to try to exceed Whatsminer, right? Because realistically right now in that field, they are doing better, right? So again, crazy price, crazy wattage. This is not for retail. This is 3-phase. This is, 380, 480 volt. This is something completely different, but I thought this was what they were going to go after, right? So they are king here. And also, MicroBT is also the first one that had 3 nanometer sized chips, right? So this came out on Tom's Hardware a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys caught it. This was during the time I was out. But their M56S++ is the first one, right? So Samsung officially started high volume production of chips on its SF3E, the 3 nanometer class gate all-around early process technology about a year ago, but no fabless chip designer has ever confirmed that it uses this node for its products. But Tech Insights recently discovered that MicroBT's Whatsminer M56S++ crypto miner has an ASIC that is indeed made with their 3 nanometer process, right? So I thought maybe they're going to debut there. So they didn't talk anything about that. I thought, if anything, if this is going to be on that 3 nanometer platform, that would have been a highlight, right? Because with the last gen, that was a big highlight. It was kind of weird that they announced that it was on their 5 nanometer platform. So is it on that platform? Who knows, right? They didn't say anything there. Maybe we'll find out more from the summit, although technically they don't really talk about the details like that as much. But just because of the hype going on around and everybody's talking about it, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But for sure, we'll find out the specs, right? But some interesting stuff there. There was an article actually that just came out. So this one's kind of interesting. And it kind of gives more credence to where the price may end up being, right? So probably whatever they put that price at, that's probably where it's going to be the cheapest, and it's probably going to only go up from there, right? So pay attention to the timing and the fact that it may not actually release until the time of the halving, what happens 4 to 5 months after. Or because of all the stuff going on with BTC, with all these ETFs, will the bull market start early and that cause the prices to increase? Potentially, right? Not for sure. Again, I'm more based off of the previous cycles. That's what I'm going by. But you have to be open to the possibility of it getting front ran this year, just because there's so much institutional interest and just interest all around, right? Plus, on top of the fact that there's all these mining companies now, there's just so much different from even just the last cycle, right? So this was pretty interesting. Perfect storm for undervalued ASICs. Blockstream plans $50 million raise to buy miners. Blockstream intends to buy and store ASIC mining hardware ahead of Bitcoin's halving 2024. So essentially, they're trying to raise money just to buy all the cheap BTC miners, have them stored, and then just have them ready to go once we're in full swing of the bull market, right? So again, just keep that in mind, guys, for BTC ASIC, not even just BTC, but just ASICs in general, right? People are more in touch with the markets and the reality of the markets. And if we're not at the low or haven't hit the low, we're going to be pretty darn close. I mean, realistically, guys, think about how much lower do you think any of these will go, even if we do have a dip, even if we do have a dip in September, October, or leading up to the halving, or even during the halving. Do you really think it's going to be much cheaper than what they are now? Hard to tell, right? So if you're in that market, just keep that in consideration. I'm not saying, buy now, these are the cheapest prices, but just keep that in the back of your head, right? We're only like 8 months away from the halving now, right? So time in a sense is kind of running out, because again, the key thing would be, even if you are into BTC mining, is to get it now, mine as much as you can prior to the halving, right? Like I've mentioned, if you guys have commented on some of the other things, the guys who are really winning are the ones who picked them up cheap back in like January and have been mining all the way through. Right? And they're going to continue mining all the way through to April. Even if it does become unprofitable around that time, all the times they've just about made their initial return on the initial investment, right? Their ROI. So just keep that in mind, right? Again, the halving is going to change things. We'll see what goes there. But again, if the efficiency doubles, and that kind of counteracts it with that unit, right? And that's going to kind of coincide with that timeline. And that's what they're going to harp on big time. That efficiency is king. You're going to want the most efficient because of the halving coming up. And in a sense, it's true, right? Because chances are a lot of them, even now, right? A lot of the 104 model, especially the residential guys, right? If you're on like 10, 12, 14, 15 cents a kilowatt hour, It's pretty much been break even, right? Slightly profitable during certain times, but just factor that in, right? Halving comes and it's going to be rough. You may have to unplug for a little bit, but keep those things in mind, right? So let's talk about some of the other junk going on. And this kind of coincides with the tweets from earlier. This is what they were basing it on. This kind of made the run around, like when I was trying to like Google stuff, this is what kept coming up. It should have been a red flag right off the bat. Look at the source. Antminer Tech, right? Even just basic digging, right? On top of the fact that this has probably been around for a while, you're going to find out it's a fake site, right? Go on the site. This is not Bitmain site, right? Shop.bitmain.com or bitmain.com is their main site. And then again, even just basic digging, looking through it, what stands out? Number one, this super fake picture, and the fact that they have it for $3,700. It's like, come on, guys. Like, what? Basic digging is showing you that this is completely fake. So again, be careful with like rumor mill things, websites, right? People come on here. Unfortunately, there's a lot of these things now. Scams are like on hype mode now, and it's only going to get worse, right? So the more you're like cognizant or aware of these things, the better off you're going to be, because this is only going to escalate, right? As we do get into that bull market, especially with all these like AI advancements, everything going on, what are people going to use them for? Nefarious reasons, right? Unfortunately, a lot of retail, people who are newer, they're going to get wrecked. So as you see these things, especially, that's why I was kind of like disappointed with these guys putting it up there. Because it's like, come on, guys, you guys are like the front runners of this. Be smart about it. They should have just deleted the tweet, done a new tweet, right? Rumor mill has this, we predict this, something, instead of just stating it like as fact. Okay, I see that they did correct it here, but again, a lot of people do not dig into it more. They see a headline and that's what it is, right? So just keep in mind, again, even like this on the cryptocurrency Reddit should have been deleted, right? Again, just basic digging. We know that this is BS, and that's what they were basing that 15 joules a terahash. Again, this might end up being right? We don't know, but this is definitely 100% a fake website. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're seeing things. Verify your sources. Don't take anybody's word for it. Even if I'm saying something, which typically I will say it's a rumor or say it's my personal prediction. It's another thing that kind of bothers me too, when people kind of throw things out there and they don't state the fact that it's their prediction or their, you know, what they're thinking it's going to be, instead of, oh, well, rumor mill saying this, when in reality they're the rumor mill, right? That's kind of another pet peeve of mine, but there's a lot of these out there, right? I was on Discord the other day. I kind of try to go through it. It's just, I know people love Discord, but it's so like, if you're in a lot of groups, it's so overwhelming. I try to go in there whenever I can, but somebody did post for a cast, but this is another one. This is InnoSilicon. It's not a real website. Again, let me make that clear. This is another scam that's been around. This one has been around for the longest. They slowly kept adapting. Now they added Caspa ones. Again, this is fake, guys. I know people see this and they get hyped, but it's fake. This one has been around. This one comes up on Google searches, unfortunately. The big one that was fake was they had this guy right here. This one's been on here for a while. This 175 terahash unit. Again, it is fake. They did add these Caspa ones, and again, they do their best to make it look legit, especially with websites people don't really go on, right? People have heard of InnoSilicon from their ETH miners back in the day. So they see them like, oh man, new miner, and they order now, and they get scammed. And unfortunately, we try to report these things, try to make people aware of these things, but just keep in mind, this is only going to get worse, right? Another one that was popular that made the rounds a while ago was this from Gecko Science, right? A lot of people have heard of this brand from these little USB units, right? So they see the website looks legit. It's like, oh, okay, it looks pretty real. Oh, I remember seeing these things. Oh man, they released the Cas miner. Nobody's heard of it. It's cheap. Let me order right now before people catch on and it sells out, right? And this is what they prey on, okay? They prey on that mentality. They're like, oh, I don't want to let anybody know. I want it to be my little secret. I want to order it. It's only $5,000. Let me get it before, and it's a freaking scam, right? So if you're unsure, guys, reach out. There's a lot of channels. Go on Discord. Hey, have any of you guys heard of this? This is a scam. Chances are somebody has heard of it at one point and can verify, or we can dig in a little bit. If any of you guys know, I'm very responsive with any comments, even if it's not pertaining to that video, right? That's the benefit of having a small community, is that it's very easy for me to see those messages and I typically respond, right? Any of you guys who have messaged me in the past or have put comments on there, I respond to pretty much everything as long as I see it, which I typically see most of it, right? So reach out if there's anything you're concerned with, or because again, this is only going to get worse, right? We're in the bear market, but imagine once we're in the bull market, unfortunately it gets crazy with scams, right? So please be cognizant of that. So yeah, guys, just wanted to give you that update on that Bitmain. We'll see where it's at, but typically if it's in this price range, expect it to be somewhere from like 6 to 8 grand, right? To keep in line with these things. Maybe once they sell a bulk of these, maybe they'll lower the price in the future, but realistically, I kind of doubt it, right? The timeline is going to give us insight as to where the price is going to be. Like if it's pre-orders then and it's not going to ship until Q1, then realistically expect it after the halving, right? Q1 essentially is going to be, they're just going to delay it to the halving. Like it's not going to make any sense for them to release it earlier. We'll see if that holds out, but that's just going to be my personal guess, is that it's going to be out because, again, they're going to want to sell as many of these as they can prior to that, right? Or maybe they just hang on to them and wait for the bull and then drop them en masse when people are going to pay 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much, right? So again, if you're in the mindset with buying any ASICs, just keep that in mind, especially now. I'll do an update video here probably in the next day, or I might release another one today. Actually, I do have time today, so I may do that today because the prices have been going up, right? So we're going to talk about that because it's pretty much across the board. It's not, sometimes it's specific ones, you know, they have a little hype going on, but pretty good price differences, right? So we'll talk about that. All right, guys, again, just wanted to keep you updated. Let me know in the comments what you think, right? Let me know your guys' predictions. Do you think it's going to come in that range? Do you think it'll be higher? Do you think it'll be lower? Let me know, right? So again, thank you guys for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys, and I am out.